Hello and welcome to our webinar, career webinar on job search in the world of AI, recruitment secrets, and resume tips revealed for 2021. And our guest today is Nikunj Verma, the CEO and co-founder of CutShort. A little bit more about him in a moment. First, I'd like to give you a few tips about how to use WebEx while we're in this session. The Q&A button with the question mark allows you to send a question to us for Nikunj to address in the Q&A portion of the webinar at the end. And remember to hit all panelists and hit send. Similarly with chat, you can send us messages. Do use all panelists or host and presenter, and we'll see that and hit send. And we're also going to be doing a poll during the webinar. Let's start off with a pre-poll just to see how that goes. Very simple. What is your current job role? And how are you feeling today? We like to ask that second question because of the stresses of the current global pandemic. I want to check in with everyone and see how you're doing. And that's just a simple thumbs up, thumbs down kind of rating. We'll leave the poll open for about another 30 seconds. And please do remember to hit submit. And we'll close in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And here are our poll results. So I think we have a number of students and a number of people outside of listed tech jobs. I think this will be very interesting for all of you today. So let me introduce Nikunj. And he is the CEO and co-founder of CutShort, which is India's go-to hiring platform for companies hiring quality talent. He has in the past worked at Carbonite and Zmanda, and he has an MBA from XLRI and a BE in computer science from UIT RGPV. So welcome, Nikunj, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen and allow you to share yours.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Stuart. Thanks, everyone, for joining this webinar today. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Okay. Okay, so let me start my screen sharing. In the meantime, I think Stuart gave some introduction about me. I'm not sure how many of you have heard about CutShort, but increasingly you will hear more about it. If you have not, if you have used it, if you have already know about CutShort, it's great. Give us feedback. As Stuart said, CutShort is the India's go-to hiring platform. It's becoming one of the most popular ones out there. The conventional job portals are going out of favor. So platforms like CutShort, which are more built holistically around the entire hiring problem and career problem, is something that is getting more and more adoption right now. So let me share my screen, and I hope you guys can see my screen.
Yep.
Okay, so poll is pretty interesting, Stuart. I think it's really a very diverse crowd right now here in this webinar, right? So feel free, you guys, to to ask questions if something is not relevant to you. I'll try to keep the content more broader rather than very specific to a specific audience. But if you need more context, then feel free to put it in the Q&A section. that we can pick up those questions in the session or maybe outside of the session or towards the end of the session as well. I just, jotted down a few points. So, it's mostly a mapping of what my current state of mind is about what do I think about, the career progression, the career context right now. This year, 2020, as you know, has been sort of a nightmare for most of the people in the industry. It's a very special timing for us to be talking about this topic when it is December and the year is going to end. So I'll just share some of the points that I noted, and then let's do it more interactively towards the end of the webinar, where you can ask more questions that are relevant to you. Does that sound okay, Stuart?
Yes, it does.
Okay, all right. Yep.
Go right ahead. We're going to start with what the present recruitment trends are. Can you tell us more about that?
I missed your question a little, but I assume that you're asking about how is the situation of hiring and what is the trend right now? Is that a question?
That's correct. Yeah, present recruitment trends.
Yeah, so as I said, this is a pretty special time for us to be talking about this topic. So this is a graph that I pulled from CutShort itself. This is our employer activity on the CutShort platform. As you can see in January, and then in January, everything was kind of okay. We were coming from December, peaceful year or peaceful month of that last year. And then January, everything was fine. Then Feb, COVID started happening. March, it became, more and more into it got into the public conscious a bit more. And March is when the lockdown started happening, especially in India. And then you can see that April, May, June, these are 2 or 3 months where things were pretty subdued. Activity started happening because this, as I said, this data is mostly from CutShort. So, we were growing this year. We have grown more, but you can see that the trend or the growth has been in April, March, April, May timeframe. It has been slow, and then suddenly it has picked up. And you can see in October it has really picked up from the September timeframe, and November also it is pretty much going strong. So this is, as I said, this is CutShort data. So as an industry, the transitions would not have been so sharp, but this is the kind of trend that you will see even if you look at the popular industry trend that in March, April, June, July timeframe, everything was really, really going bad, and then started picking up. And in October, November timeframe, everyone started reporting more hiring, more jobs opening up, more companies coming out of their exile and hiring freezes. So this is basically at that time when COVID happened in June timeframe, when we started polling the companies at what were they doing. This is what they told us, that 25% companies said, we are laying off employees and we are no longer hiring. It's completely a disaster for us. At the same time, 45% companies who were not directly impacted because of the COVID situation, but they also went in a hiring freeze because they were sort of playing conservative. They were not sure what will happen. So 45% companies, although were not impacted directly, they were not in the bad sectors which got affected, like travel, entertainment, on sports and all those things. They were not there, but they stopped their hiring and they took a break. And then there were a lot of companies that were hiring as well aggressively, and those were the beneficiaries in some ways of the COVID impact. So this is what it was, and as expected, as 2021, we are going to enter 2021. We're also seeing a big update, a big positive news coming on the vaccine front. And even without vaccines, I think people were generally getting more used to the entire scenario with COVID around us. And now, we expect a big rebound to happen. As you can see in November, December, the numbers were anyway looking up, pretty steeply up from the previous months. And we expect that in 2021, all those companies, 45% companies that paused their hiring, although they were not impacted, now they will come back to the market. So there's be a lot of pent up demand from the industry coming in 2021. And with vaccine and other positive news, we believe that in 2021, it will be actually a much bigger month than even 2019 or 2018, and it will continue to have that momentum at least in 2021. So that's the good news for all of us. And I think before we go further, it looks like COVID was, a big, big letdown. Everybody got impacted. But just to, to have a real sense of realism here, what we also see that there has been a major demand for skilled professionals even during the pandemic. So that is something that we all here in this room, when we have the tools to understand in a larger context, in a global context, and we are all knowledge workers in some way. So we are more privileged than others. And we see that even during the pandemic, there was a big demand for skilled professionals. So it's not like everyone was out of job. A lot of skilled professionals was still in demand. They were still getting salary hikes and everything else. So not everything was bad for everyone else. The biggest impact happened in non-essential and support functions, right? Wherever there was no need for people to have more labor-intensive functions and support functions and HR functions, field operations or some other stuff that was no longer required, and those were the hardest hit job functions. And while domain agnostic professionals who really did not have a very domain specific skill set, like they were not like air hostesses or they're not like waiters. They were the people who had more cross-functional, cross-domain skill set. They could, even if they got affected, they were able to shift to the other sectors which were not affected or which were booming in some ways. So the pandemic was bad news, but there were some people who were not really so much badly impacted. And what do we learn since we're talking about careers here? And we're going to talk about how to build a career and how to grow and how to plan things around our career. I think which is what is the most important thing before I move on from this pandemic situation or pandemic discussion is that there are some lessons here for all of us in this room, and the lesson is very clear. Uh, if you even if the in the worst of the worst times, if you have certain things right, then you have a better shot in really withstanding all these crisis kind of situations that people out of the time will throw at you. And what are those lessons that I was thinking about those lessons, and I realized that these are some lessons that came to my mind. The first one is be the best you can be in your chosen work area, right? A lot of people don't choose their work area properly, or they are not passionate about it, right? So I think the most important thing is if you've chosen a work area strategically and you should be upskilling yourself to become the best in that area. If you are the best, no matter what is happening in the industry, there will always be a demand for you. uh, Domain knowledge is good, but try to work across many domains. A lot of people I see in the earlier stages of their career, they get into a company in a specific industry, and then they start picking up a domain expertise, and they spend 5 years, 10 years, 15 years in the same domain. Although that's great, but you will find that beyond a specific time for a very specific set of people, that much domain understanding going into deep one domain really does not help you. It actually makes things more risky. So try to get more cross-functional, cross-domain experience as a profession. That's always good to have. So that's one more lesson from the pandemic. Third is try to work in a profit center, not cost center. Anything which is an operational work, which is measured by the number of hours you spend on it, those are the things that typically get impacted more because people shift their budgets from, they reduce the call centers, they reduce the people who are in the front line handling people. They reduce the people who are in the financial, who are in some kind of low level financial work. They remove all of that. So try to be in the profit center where your work directly results in some kind of revenue. And like software is a great example of that, where the software is something which you write today and it will keep on getting sold again and again without you having to work again and again for it. So try to work in something which is more aligned with the revenue and not so much in terms of the cost. And again, something which is to do more with the impact rather than something to do with more number of hours you spend on it. So that's again one more lesson that we can learn. Uh, then this is again the same point that choose a profession where your impact is measured in numbers, in metrics, and not in terms of hours. Uh, The other thing from the pandemic that we saw in terms of major layoffs that happened, numbers of years of experience, right? And this is something as a modern professional, all of us, we need to understand this, that our years of experience in the yesteryears, it grew linearly, and along with it, your salary, your position, your job security, everything kind of grew linearly. But that is no longer true anymore, because now we are seeing that just by having more number of years on your resume, you are no, you're no more valuable than anybody else who has less years of experience. So that is something which is a big thing that pandemic has told, because in the pandemic time, when the bad situation or bad times happened, the first ones that were laid off were the people who had who were in the higher salary range, who had more years of experience, but who were not really so much valuable to the business immediately. So so number of years is only an asset, and it can be a big asset, by the way. I'm not saying that the more number of years you have on your resume is not good. It's great. In fact, it is something which can really make you much more valuable than anybody else out there. But it only works if those experience, those years, they actually have told you something, that you have taught something to you. You've learned something greatly in those years, and then that's when it becomes then only it becomes an asset. Otherwise, it becomes a liability, right? So I'm seeing a lot of questions coming in. So I'll just stop after this thing and I'll just take the questions if they are relevant to this what I'm going through, or we can take them in the end. Stuart can let me know if there are questions that we can take right now.
Yeah, right now, I would
Okay.
like to ask, one of the questions was, you showed a growth chart. Was that global or India only?
That was India only, and the data came from CutShort in
Okay.
specific. So yeah, you need to just adjust a bit for a global context or local context, but the trend would remain the same. The quarter two of that year was really bad. Everything went down, and the next two quarters it was like going flat. And then in October, November, December timeframe, things are 30-40% up. So that is how the trend you will see across any major geography. Uh, and the last thing, which coming back to what I'm presenting, so last thing which I wanted to really highlight here is you need to plan for bad things, right? These things will happen. Now, I think most of us who are, in our, early to late 20s or 30s, we have not seen that much of, world, professional world changing so much, that we sometimes were led into believing that everything was going to be constant. Every year we would get a hike. Our jobs will still be safe, and situations like pandemic and these kind of situations wouldn't happen to us. But if you look back and see in the history, these things have happened before. It's just that in our limited amount of time on the planet, we have not seen that happening. So a lot of people were really caught up by surprise. And right in terms of a financial planning, in terms of a skilling planning, people thought everything will work, the way it was working before. But then this pandemic has told us and taught us that things can happen bad, and it is a law of nature. So what we need to do is plan for the bad things. So in terms of all the planning, you need to account for these things to happen. And if these things do happen, then we need to be resilient. We just can't be, of thinking like jumping up and down, not really thinking straight, taking it too, negatively. We have to look at it and see the opportunity also in these crises. And you will find a lot of companies got started in this time. A lot of people uh, found time to upskill themselves, because this opportunity or this pandemic gave them the opportunity to think, to reboot themselves. So these things will happen, and I think most important thing is, if you have planned things better, then you will not be so negatively impacted. And in those cases, you are better, positioned to create or to make use of these opportunities, because everybody else will be down, and you will have the opportunity of really creating something when things are not looking up for so many other people. So that will be a great chance for you to make sense and take advantage of these things. Any questions you have, Stuart? Then I think I'll just go to the job search in 2021 and beyond. The tips around that. Any question that came in? I'm not sure if Stuart can hear me.
Yeah, I can't. I'm sorry, I was on mute. I have a question from the audience that relates to what you were just saying, which is this individual persona saw that legacy system jobs survive more than new digital jobs in their environment. Um, is that something you're seeing, or are you seeing something different?
Okay, that's an interesting aspect of the entire situation, right? So there will be pockets, right, where there will be less demand and also less supply, and they would be relatively, you know, shock-proof in some ways because they're so closed, they're so niche, they're so legacy oriented or around legacy topic or skills that there's not enough people in demand supply, and you need those many people to continue your operation. So there is no layoff. That's also an interesting point, but I think, and I thought about this point, but I also realized that as a modern worker, uh, having getting into a legacy kind of a place where you are protected from the outside world, it's great, but it also is a liability because you're not getting the benefit of the industry, growing outside of a niche or outside of a legacy. So I think it's important to be in the place where there is more demand and supply. So there are more companies that are hiring, and there are less number of talented people, skilled people available. That's one condition. And second condition is that you should also be looking at the growth of that industry. So always align yourself with growth, right? I think in terms of your career, protecting your career, if you try to protect it, it is not going to work out because something will disrupt it. Legacy systems, legacy technologies get disrupted all the time, right? So, and if that happens, then you will be really caught on the wrong foot, right? So always look for ideally where there is more demand, less supply, less number of people, and also provision that also plan that that sector, that role that you're trying to get into has a really aggressive growth curve. And those are two things. If you do it right and play it right, then that will work to your favor. That's
Well,
what.
that leads into your next topic, which is, how to go about a job search in 2021.
Okay. Okay, so job search in 2021 and beyond, right? So why I'm saying 2021 and not 2020, what changed, right? So all of us know that a lot of stuff changed in 2020 and it changed for good. It changed for really long term. And sometimes these things happen and they accelerate the entire uh, slow process that was happening in the background. And that's what happened in this case. A lot of hiring fundamentals and job search fundamentals are going to remain the same, right? And like most things, fundamentals don't really change a lot. What changes often is the format of things, right? So you have earlier you have a different sports version, and then now you have a new sports version, but the fundamentals of cricket or any other game remain the same. Similar to that, the job search context is not changing, or job search fundamentals not changing. What is changing is how companies are going to be hiring, so the kind of methods they adopt, the kind of the what has happened is the demand supply changes that are happening, and how will they affect you and how you can make a winning strategy for your career move in 2021 and beyond. So let me just go through what I jotted down this afternoon. So I'll just again repeat the same thing. Uh, right, do what you're passionate about. I think a lot of people, and I want to take a bit of time before I go to tactical work or tactical tips. I don't know, do this on your resume, do that on your resume. I just want to always start from the basics. I always want to start from the fundamentals. I think if you take the most important step first, which is the fundamentals of everything, then it really makes it easy for you to do the tactical part better. So I think again I would like to re-emphasize, a lot of people in their career, they don't get this right, and they get into a job which they do not really want to get into, but that's the job that they got, and then they don't have an exit strategy. They'll keep on getting more and more salary increments and more sort of invested into that job role, and they never come out of it. And then their exit barrier or the switching cost becomes too high. They just can't get out of it, and then they're stuck in a very in a role that they really don't enjoy. And then that's where all bad things start happening. So the most important thing before you start your job search, much before you start your job search, is the planning for what kind of role you're doing, what role you want to do, what do you enjoy. And this is a Japanese concept called ikigai, which you can actually go through, look it up on Google. try to see, where is the sweetest spot that you can find for your career. Do and these are the kind of times, and when these kind of things, if you've done it, you really make, you are in a better place than others. And also, even if you've not thought about it, these are times when you can get the time to actually do this thinking. So I would always encourage people to figure this out, where you want to, what kind of role you want to get into, what do you want to do in long run, what does professional life mean to you. And second is, your job search starts, as I said, before you start a job search, much before you start a job search. Because job search, when we think about the concept, it is like you find jobs, you search jobs, you apply, you send your resume, you go through the interview process. But if the homework of that begins 6 months, 9 months, 1 year before you actually launch your job search. So the first thing you should do, and a lot of people think, it's just about social presence. So that's the first point. People think a social presence means creating a LinkedIn account, keeping my profile active, and keeping my profile complete on LinkedIn, and that's enough. That is better, but that's a good first step. But then that's not enough, right? What is before your job search? What you need to do is create some sort of identity for yourself, and which is not just the run-of-the-mill LinkedIn account. It also means that you are sharing whatever you're learning. You are putting out something which is thoughtful, looking at your field of work, whatever it is. If you're a marketer, you're looking at the marketing tactics by different companies, you have some opinion on them. Similar to that, if you have data science, then you are analyzing some new data and data science script, the trends that are coming in, and you are critiquing those, and you're putting your perspective there. Do something. It's not just about creating an online presence and then occasionally liking update here and update there. It's about putting something original, putting something which is valuable. And if you do that, what happens is, when you share your learnings, you attract people who are looking for people like you. So you make friends, you attract people in your target companies, perhaps. You also attract recruiters. So your search, is started not by you, but it is actually kicked off by a recruiter, and which is what you want to do ideally, right? So it will make you better. It will interact with people at your dream company. So if you have some companies that you're really passionate about, those companies, you can try to interact with them, tag them, and see, if there is some common ground. And when you make friends with them, you get some insider information about what those companies are working on, and that you can use to your advantage later on when you actually do your job search. So this is a very important point. The problem is a lot of people don't do all of this, and then they are left in a situation where they have to look for a job all of a sudden. And then since nothing has been done, you just they spend more and more time on application and not really preparing their profile, and doing the thinking process beforehand. So I would really urge everyone to plan ahead. Even if you're not looking for a job, be aware of what's happening and then work on these basic principles. It will help you stand out, right? And that standout means not only in terms of attracting recruiters, but also much later in the game. Let's say no recruiters contacted you, but when the companies are talking to you, they are interviewing you, or before the offer, they are trying to see who you are and trying to become more confident. Your work out there in the social space, whether it's any of the Kaggle or GitHub kind of platform, whether it is LinkedIn profile, any blogs that you write, any websites you maintain, all of that work will be looked up, and it will be, at that time you want to really stand out. And as I said earlier, before you starting a job search, not only ikigai is important, but also understanding the growing areas where the demand and supply more. So again, the same thing. Find a place where there's more growth and there's a more demand than supply. If these two conditions are not there, then it is not a great place. You'll have some compromises to make. Uh, and this is again, I'm highlighting this point because I see a lot of people having a very narrow-mindedness around their career. They think, and there is a lot of literature, a lot of advice that people give to each other, and never do something for free, right? Something like that. But I don't believe in that, because I think a lot of times, when you are trying to get into an area where you want to work in, you don't have any credentials to work in that area. So a lot of people I see that they do one course in data science and they try to get into a job as data scientist right away, which does not really work out because companies are looking for experienced people in that sector. Now, how do you break into a sector where people are only looking for experienced people, right? By doing something uh, without really expecting a return in short term. right? And if you think, no, I will only work when I get paid, that advice will not get you far because you will never get the experience. So I always say there's an investment that you have to make. Sometimes it is for free, and that investment will give you returns in terms of learning, in terms of some work that you can show on the resume. And a lot of people who are really good in data science, who are learning about it, but they don't get the opportunity. They don't get the opportunity because they don't have an experience that they can write on their resume. If they had done something on their own, if some projects they had done, if they had helped some startup and some other work, they got their hands dirty and they could have written it on their resume. They would have gotten past the first stage of recruitment filter or the screening that happens by recruiters, and they would have at least had a shot. But today they don't even have a shot because they never did something for free, or they held themselves back from entering that point or entering that stage. So I would say it's always important to shift wherever you think you want to shift. Even if you have to work for free, go ahead and do it for some time, and you will not be disappointed. Okay, and this is all about your job search preparation. So what we discussed so far is not even job search. It is about knowing what you are good at, what you enjoy doing, what somebody will pay you for, and all of that concept. Then figuring out where you want to get in, and choosing your area to play in, creating your presence, creating your identity, and even if it getting the skills, if it requires for you to make an investment, you are not hesitating from doing that. All of that if you do, and then you enter the job search part of your of the cycle of this process, then you are much better prepared. Then you have already, you might have already some dream companies that you have on your radar. So if you were doing things right, you also would have had some connections with those people who are working there, so it would have been easy for you to tap into that network. If you don't have it, it's still fine because you have done more. If you had some dream companies, you were reading about them, you were reading about their work, then what you can do now is fix like 5-10 companies that you really want to work at. You can go the extra mile, do something special for them, look at their business problems, try to whatever, depending on whatever you can bring to the table, try to offer a solution to them, write a cold email, whatever you want to do, attract their attention, because you have spent more time on them. You know them much better and much from close quarters. You can actually tweak your pitch and customize the pitch completely, so you can handle your dream companies in a very high touch model kind of a basis, where you can customize everything. For other companies, apply smartly, right? And a lot of people don't apply smartly. And what I mean is, they just send a resume and they say, this is this is a job. I'm really interested in the job. That's the basic opportunity, because application does not mean just sending a resume. Application means that you are trying to help the recruiter or the person who is going to look at the application shortlist you or map you to the job role that they have put out there. By making their job difficult by writing something generic, you're not actually helping them, because you are asking them to do all the hard work and thinking work on their own, which is not ideal. Like in anything, whatever you do in your life, you always, if you are, let's say, if you're depending on some other people, right, you always make it easy for them to make that decision. If you're selling something, you want to make it as easy as possible for them to buy or whatever you're selling. But when we sell ourselves, our resume or for a job position, we don't do that. We just say, okay, this is a product, take it or leave it, right? Which is not optimal, of course. People don't even read the JDs properly. I understand that JDs are not always good also. So, and this is where I think is one thing is important, which I would like to highlight is our job is not to blame things. As when we are looking for new career options, our job is to stay positive, figure out what is the best we can do. A lot of JDs are not relevant. A lot of JDs are trash. They don't have the right requirements, or they have too many requirements. I understand that happens, right? But let's ignore it. Let's try to figure out what is the best we can do with the JDs where we want to apply, right? And JDs often have the clue. If you read the JDs, you will find emphasis on certain things. And when you're applying for the role, you need to apply smartly so that those things that are highlighted in the JD, they are very, very easily visible in the first view of the recruiter. And if you do that, that's the first level of smartness that you can do. JD is a job description, Sumit. Sorry, I could have described it here. Coming from recruitment's domain, I thought JD would be, pretty much obvious, but yeah, it is not. So job description is where companies write more about the role. So if you go through that properly, you will find a lot of clues. Companies will intentionally drop those clues, and your job is to pick up the trail from there. And I think other thing after applying for a job is uh, people not understanding that a hiring process is actually a process adopted by a company, and there are different stages in the hiring process. So it's not like every company wants to have a lot of steps in the hiring process. Every step in the hiring process is there for a reason, and no company wants to have more steps in their hiring process than necessary. So if they're keeping a step, they are focusing on something. In one step, they might be focusing on one kind of skills. In second step, they might be focusing on different kind of skills. And third step, they're now looking at cultural part of it, right? So every step is there for a reason. And every step, as a candidate, your job becomes slightly different from the previous step. If you understand what is the next step, and if you can adapt your process and your approach for that step, then it makes it easy for you to get past that step. Let me kind of illustrate that point. The first step in any hiring process is the screening or the basic filtering, right? So recruiters have a lot of applications, and recruiters are HR people. Most of the time, they are very young. They don't have a lot of understanding of all the roles that they are going to be filtering for. It's not like they're experts in that domain, right? Let's say you're applying for data roles or applying for marketing roles. They are not marketers themselves. They're not data scientists themselves. So what they're going to look at is whatever they have understood from the job description from the hiring manager. And in this case, they will ask them to apply some rule, right? So it will be something like look for 2 to 5 year experience, look for this kind of words or keywords in their resume, look for some colleges or some kind of companies that we have hired from the past and stuff like that. That's the rule that they're going to apply, right? So when you are in the first stage, when you're applying, your job is to get past the recruiter, and it makes sure, and you have to make sure that whatever recruiters are looking for, that problem is solved, right? And I'll talk about this in the later part of slides as well, but our job at that time is to get past the recruiter. In the second stage, when the interviewers are involved, they are basically assessing your skills, right? So anything about your portfolio, about your skills, where you applied the skills, those things are going to be important. At this stage, when you are making to the interview round, your objective is mostly around reading up on the past interviews, knowing what the interviewers have asked in the past, and looking at what you can highlight at that point where to impress them with the technical or whatever skills of job skills that you have. That's your job at that point. A lot of people, they know that they go to the third, like a lot of people you might have found that they entered the first round, they cleared that, second round they cleared, third and fourth round also cleared, and in the fourth or fifth or sixth round, when there is some sort of bar raiser or some kind of a VP interview or director interview, or HR interview, and they think, oh, I don't know what happened, what went wrong. What went wrong is because you took it lightly, and I am guilty of that. I'm a person who's guilty of that mistake as well. A lot of times when we enter the HR round, we think everything is done, and it's just a formality. Whenever we talk to a senior person in the company, we think it's almost the handshake that's going to happen, but that is not often the case, right? And in that thing, we actually end up making mistakes by not being a bit casual about. And sometimes we become casual in our approach. Sometimes we are not highlighting our right things at the right time. So I think those, and again, at that time, that point of the start of the hiring process, your objective changes, and you should be more cautious. You should be more prepared about what is so great about a company. You should be asking some questions as well. If you just leave the opportunity of asking great questions to someone who is a director of the company or who's a founder of the company, that is an opportunity lost. And it just means that you're looking for a job. You're not really interested in joining a company. So all those things are important, but we miss that part. So I think smart job search means understanding the other side of the equation, knowing that you are not alone in the universe. There is a process that a company has adopted to check something at each step of the hiring process. And at the other end of the table, there are people who are doing their job, and your job is to let them do their job properly and easily. The more difficult you make it for them to assess, the make more difficult your resume and your keywords and your experience. They've already told you about JD and everything else. Still, you're not taking the advantage of that. That is a mistake that a lot of people make. And eventually, a lot of people say that companies are not responding, they are ghosting me, and all of those things, because a lot of times we are not optimizing our approach for the companies. We are just doing what we think is right, but that is is not right. Is not the optimal approach when you're dealing with a complex process like recruitment. So I would say have some respect and understanding. Understand that they're also doing their job and they also have some constraints. And our job is to make their job easy as much as possible. So that is about a job search. I'm happy to take any questions about the job search part. Now we are going to go into the AI part, which is everybody's fancy these days about what is AI doing, and there is some sort of misunderstanding about it, and some sort of concern around it. So I'll talk about that in AI and recruitment and what it means to you as a professional who is looking for opportunities. But before that, I will just stop and see if there are any questions to it.
Um, yeah, there is a question here um, from Diraj Koti, who asks for a friend who's a mechanical pass out and MTech mechanical engineer, has been teaching physics, has continually been working, wants to switch into a different field as a data analyst, and is curious to know if companies hire freshers, people who have recently gotten
Yeah.
certifications or qualifications in new areas like that.
Yeah. So that is a same example I was actually giving in my section earlier. A lot of people want to enter a space where there's heavy, competition and data roles, whether it's data engineering, data science, data analyst. These are roles where you will find, or product management, for that matter. These are the fields where experience is important. A lot of people want to get into these roles because the salary is good, the work quality is good, and there's a boom in these sectors. So there's more supply, and demand also is pretty strong, but supply also is pretty strong. So you are actually fighting a very competitive kind of a battle. That's number one. In this kind of domain, and try to just understand this, guys. I mean, it's mostly about demand supply here. This is labor market, right? And the more you understand from a demand supply perspective, the better off you would be. You're entering a space where there are more people available. There are jobs, but the quality level of the skill level is very high because these jobs are typically experiential jobs, right? In data science, you need to understand a lot of algorithm, a lot of mathematics, and you have to have some experience of doing things. Similarly, in product management, you typically have 3 to 5 year experience before you can actually understand the business context as well. For anybody who's a fresher to enter these spaces is not easy, right? So let's acknowledge that part first of all. But I'm not saying it is impossible. In fact, at CutShort, we have hired someone who was a fresher in a data scientist role, and he's actually started our data science and machine learning department in that way. He actually has already done a lot of great work as almost like a 4 year 5 year experienced person. So how does that happen, right? Companies are also lying when they say they're not hiring freshers, right? What they're saying essentially is we are not hiring people who need to be taught too much, right? So as somebody who's a fresher, if you are entering a space where there is a lot of competition, your job becomes difficult, but it is possible if you have more skills and more experience on your profile. And in our case, for example, the example I'm giving of our own company is that person has been working in data science since second year or third year of his engineering. So he already has 3 years full-time experience. He has worked for 2 or 3 startups. He has already solved a lot of problems, right? So although on paper he's a fresher, but in terms of his learning curve, in terms of his experience and the devotion that he has shown into that field, is actually speaks very a very great picture about what his passion is, and then it becomes easy for any company to take a bet on those people. So I would say when you're looking for these kind of roles, you just can't go to the market saying, you know what, I am a fresher. I'm experienced, I want to get into data science. Please give me a chance. No, that does not work that way. Nobody is going to give you a chance because there's so many people who are willing to, who are experienced, who can do the same job. You have to earn it, and in our case, we actually paid this person on their terms. It was not even our terms, right? So it all depends on the arbitrage and leverage you have, and the more skills you have, the better off it is for you. So I think as a fresher, you need to build your skills. There is no other alternative. Yes, you can go to big companies that are hiring in big numbers, but I would say still, right? You get what you pay for, right? Similarly, if you go to a company where they don't care about your skill set, it is probably not the best investment of your time, right? So I would say try to get practical experience. In that, freshers we can't get a no, I'm not saying freshers can't get a job. Freshers get a job. I asked so many companies about whether they're hiring freshers. They say no. And what I change the question next time. I say, do you want a great fresher who is skilled? And they say yes, right? So nobody's saying that they're not hiring freshers. You have to create a demand for yourself. And if you have done the hard work, if you have invested your time into the right things, if you can show for yourself about your knowledge and your skills, companies will give you a chance. And if there is the companies who are not giving, there will be some companies that will also be giving a chance. And there's so many companies out there. You can just hit them up on Twitter. You can hit them up on LinkedIn. You can hit them up on email. Write cold email to them and create space for yourself. But you can't be writing a cold email saying, this is my resume. Please give me a job. That can't be the pitch.
Let's move on to the AI section. Do you want to get a temperature from the audience about how they feel about AI?
Yeah, absolutely. That would be great. So a lot of people might have heard about AI. So let's ask them about, what is their feeling about how AI helps them or impacts them.
Okay. So we have a quick poll about how do you feel about AI? Do you think it's as a potential candidate, do you think it's a good thing or not a good thing for your job search? And we'll
It's
just
also
leave this up.
showing, it's also showing me the question. Should I answer?
If you like.
Okay.
And we'll just leave it open for another 15 seconds. And by the way, AI is artificial intelligence.
Yeah, I didn't realize my camera was not on.
Oh.
Yeah, I had started my camera early on, but I don't know when it got turned off.
I thought that was intentional.
No, I
But
didn't
thank you for
realize.
turning it on. We do want to, we do like to have people watching.
Yeah, absolutely. I think whatever FaceTime you can get in these times is always good.
Here is the result of the poll.
Okay, that's great. We have a very knowledgeable crowd here.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
Yeah.
so okay, let me close my poll. Okay, great. So how to deal with the AI, right? So uh, it's great that you guys have already have had some exposure to it or you know about it. Let's talk about why it is good or why it is bad, right? So why AI in recruitment at all? Try to imagine, as I said earlier, recruitment is a business process where companies are involved on the other side of the table. They have teams, and their job is to find the right person for the right job. Now, imagine that imagine these numbers, and these are real numbers. An average job attracts 250 applications per job. It's not even any exaggeration here. It can actually be 5,500 or 1,000 as well. In fact, someone told me on my team recently, someone created a job for a fresher on CutShort itself, and in 3 hours they got 180 applications. Right? Uh, that is the kind of volume that a recruiter has for on one job. Average uh, if you look at how many jobs are open, a typical smaller company has 3 jobs open. A bigger company can have 25 jobs open as well, right? And they are these are just application numbers. So how many applications are coming in at top of the funnel? Then there are people who are actively in the hiring process, right? So it's a funnel. People 250 applications per job and 3 jobs are active. This means 750 people are entering the funnel in 2 weeks period. In 750 people, there are 60 people who are in the hiring process who need to be sent as an assignment, who need to be scheduled an interview with the team, or who need to be asked more questions on a phone call or whatever it is, right? Whatever the hiring process is. Uh, Unfortunately, the recruitment teams are small. Now, no company has infinite number of recruiters on their teams, right? So this is a practical scenario for any company that is hiring right now. And with a time like this, right, as I said, demand supply, right? So try to understand the supply side or the candidate side of the equation. There's so many people out there, right? There are millions of professionals out there. And now with the remote friendliness and all of that, the applications are really getting even increasing even higher because people can now apply to any job anywhere, right? So these numbers are really, really rising very fast. And recruiting teams are small, right? So there is definitely a use case for companies to adopt AI in whatever way they can, so that they can deal with these applications and these candidates more efficiently and more effectively. And it's not just about saving time; it's also about AI being much better than a typical recruiter for these jobs, right? What you are trying to do as a recruiter here, when you have so many applications coming in, is you're trying to figure out who is a better fit, and that better fit is often a mathematical or a data question, right? Who has worked in what kind of companies, what kind of experience they have, how much experience they have, what skills they have worked in, all of that, right? And as a human, it's just really hard for you to look at all the 750, 800 applications coming in 2 weeks and doing a justice to all of those. So technology is much better at these things, right? And that's why it is going to see, and it has seen the adoption that it has seen so far in the recruitment uh, uh, process, right? Data needs to be parsed, data needs to be understood. There are data sets that are available. So like you have companies, list of good companies, list of good colleges, what kind of skills they have worked in, and other whole lot of other layer about what skills come under what domain. All of that is a data set problem. And as I said earlier, recruiters generally have not been cross-functional, right? A recruiter does not understand marketing, a recruiter does not understand data science. So AI comes into that into the picture and bridges the gap. So that the recruiters don't really have to know all the domains. The AI part can take care of the relevance problem without the recruiter really needing to be an expert on that. So that is how the context of AI coming into recruitment, and that's why a lot of you said it is good. So it is indeed good because it helps the other side, which is the recruiting side, to look at your resume, to process your application faster, to become more efficient in finding the right person for the right job. So that's why, in that spirit, it is a great move. It's a great shift, right? And we all love that. And where is AI being utilized the most, right? So as I said, matching screening, where let's say I create a job where I'm looking for a specific kind of people. AI can, out of millions of profiles, AI can find the right matches. So instead of going through all the profiles on my own or using some crude filters like skills or keywords, AI can find a better fitting profile for me. So it solves that matching problem or discovery of the right candidate problem. And then screening is a second similar problem, but slightly different because now it is an application that is coming in. And as a recruiter, I want to see who are the, out of 250 applications, who are the applications, which are the applications that are matching my requirements. And out of the people who are matching my requirements, who are the top relevant people, right? So that's the second matching plus screening problem. And then a lot of people also use, a lot of tools also use hiring process automation, and AI is also deployed there, right? So you might be getting automated messages, you might be getting reminders from an NLP or from a bot kind of a thing. You might be getting that. You might be getting some video interviews also, which are assessed by AI itself, not by humans. Not very often, but it is something which is still developing. But people also have started using it, and some other HR problems that companies typically have. that is where the AI is mostly utilized. And try to understand that there's not a common AI, right? It's not like one general piece that everybody's using. Every tool has their own implementation of all these things, right? So some tools can be very advanced, they're very sophisticated, they are more, they're less error prone, and some are very primitive. So our job, when we are looking for a job, is to make sure that we are, uh, an average system can understand, what, how to process a resume and how to process an application. The sophisticated, of course, can process better, but our job is to not assume that we are only dealing with the AI system, because you will don't even know as a candidate which AI system is being used by the company. Some company is using something else, some company is using something else, right? So if that is the case, then uh, let's understand that how these AI algorithms actually work, right? So before we go into the phase where we can optimize for or take advantage of AI when the companies are using, right? So most AI algorithms, when they're looking for matching and screening capabilities, are looking at job titles. Job title actually has a very significant usage. A lot of AI algorithms look at the job titles, so that if you are looking there, if they are looking for applications for product manager, anybody who has a product manager title already on the resume will be given certain weightage by the algorithm. Similarly, they'll also be looking at job position with duration of your work at every job that you did. It will also look at the company that you worked at. It will also try to figure out the companies, like what kind of companies they are. Are they into any specific domain, or are these services companies, product companies, and whatnot, right? So they'll be trying to build some intelligence around the companies as well. Then they will also be looking at the key skill section. And they'll try to match this section with the job section, wherever whatever was highlighted in the job as the important skill. Does this candidate have those skills or not? And they also will be looking at your educational history, which institute you went to, which program you did there, right? So they are going to look at these parts, and some of the AI tools also look at some other stuff like skills that you used last, or any skill, when was it used last in your resume, or try to make sense out of it. They will also look at kind of work you've done, not just the keywords, but they try to map whether it was data science kind of work that you did, or it was something else which you did. So they try to make sense of the kind of work you did. They'll also look at a tenure length. Anybody who has uh, switched too many jobs, they'll try to figure it out as well, right? And there's a lot of creativity in these tools, depending on what companies want to do and what vendors provide. They try to implement all these features. Now, as you figure out, this is not a accurate science, right? There will be errors here, there will be errors there. And I also said that not everybody using one common algorithm. Everybody is using different kind of algorithms. So since it is a cutting edge, new age field, some companies are ahead, some companies are not ahead, and every AI is error prone in some ways, right? So if you are dealing with a system like this, which is going to decide whether you're going to get shortlisted or not, there can be some tips that you can use. I'm going to talk about that just in a bit. And this is the second part of how to take advantage of that. So since your uh, uh, resume in the first stage of the application is going to be read by a machine, you need to keep these sections, whatever we saw in the previous slide, right? We need to keep these sections easy to read. We should not make it difficult for the algorithm to uh, understand all these sections or all these information that they're going to use. We want to make it easy for the algorithm to pick it up. Example is to provide the key skills, right? So a lot of people use non-standard versions of the key skills, right? Don't use that. Like I used JD in my previous slide, and somebody said, "What is a JD?" So don't make that mistake. Use the right form. That is a standardized format of any skill. Also try to include a synonyms. If you're working on skill A, and the skill A also can be called, with name BCD, also include in bracket BCD, so that the algorithm is able to understand that this is something which also is there on your resume, and you're not getting deprived of that opportunity just because you did not mention a synonym. And there can be more things, but don't do the keyword stuffing there. It's not great, because the same resume is also going to be read by recruiters later on. So you don't want to make a mistake that all your resume is about just all the random keywords, right? Don't do that. But try to not, like, your job is here. Your job here is to make sure that whatever you have worked on is not being missed. And just because a specific keyword is not there, but you know it, you're not being removed by the algorithm, right? That's the major focus for you here. Uh, Customize for different kind of jobs. So every time you apply for a job, you use a different resume. If you're applying for the same resume for marketing job as well as product management job, that will not give you the same score, right? So try to optimize your resume for the kind of role. Again, objective is not to fool the AI system by writing something which you have not done. But if you can highlight something differently, then sure, I think that's something which you should do. And you don't need a fancy resume with charts and all of that. A lot of people try to think that, I need a very aesthetically defined, cool kind of a resume, which has my, area of expertise on the graph or line chart or bar charts and all of that. Then, there is a different animation or something like that. It's not required. The more difficult you make, the more you will lose out. And to illustrate that, let's say you are giving a set of pictures to Facebook, and your objective is that Facebook should be able to pick up people or recognize people in the picture, right? This may be your office picture. Now, this is picture one. Do you think that this picture will be easy for Facebook to figure out that who is there in the picture, right? It's a well-lit picture, faces are clearly defined. Now, if you look at this, on the other hand, this is not very clearly defined picture. There are no clear boundaries, and this might be a resume. And the third is, what about this, right? It is again something which is even more difficult for Facebook to pick up. Now, Facebook might pick it up. Let's say they have trained it on even these kind of faces, but a normal site might not, right? So when you're dealing with your resume, your job is not to become fancy. This is a great picture, but it's a fancy picture, right? It will not get picked up. Similar to that, every phase is a section in a resume. Try to make every section very easy for the machine to understand. If something is educational criteria, educational qualification, or education history, write that. Don't try to put that, where I excelled or my list of alma mater or something like that. I don't try to make it too creative. You want the machine to really understand every part of the resume very clearly. So try to do that. Don't try to test the AI system. That's not the no that not that's not something which you want to do. Okay. Now, hiring process, this was the matching and screening, and in AI and hiring process automation is also used, as I said, in automating replies. You might get reminders, you might get a bot talking to you. All those things are great, right? Take advantage of that, because by deploying bots, by deploying these systems, companies are automating their process, and hence they are able to see more people and talk to more people than they can physically do as humans, right? So it's great opportunity for you. But so don't ignore auto messages. A lot of people have some sort of ego issues. They think, I am applying and they are responding with a bot or something. I will not reply. Don't do that, because as I said again, our job is not to judge. Our job is to help companies do their job, right? So our job is to make sure that if companies are trying to take advantage of that technology, understand that they are busy, they have so many applications, and let's try to make it easy for them. So don't have this bad feelings about bots talking to you or people automating their messages. Don't ignore that. Participate in the process. Again, but when you're talking to a bot, don't depend on the bots, right? So this is also a great tip for you. That let's say you applied, you got some automated message, you provided that information, and then you stopped, right? And you're just waiting for the company to come back. But try to understand that this bot also might be working on their own, and the company might not have gone through your profile or gone through your response. So if you wait for 7 days or 10 days and you're still not getting any update, you can follow up manually. A lot of people don't do that. This is again, try, if you understand their side of the equation. There are times when they are not able to respond. They have the intention, but they are not able to respond, or they have not even seen your resume or seen your update because of the whole automation. They're not able to, get on top of everything that is happening. So if you bring it up, bump it up, it's always good for you. And try to use across multiple channels. So if you are applying on one system and you applied via email or replied via email or whatever platform, uh, see if you can find the email address of the person. If you're not getting a response there, just drop them an email. Reach them out on LinkedIn saying, hey, we were talking on that system, and our conversation did not go anywhere, right? I just wanted to follow up that you have not missed it. it is perfectly fine, and companies will have, and your recall will happen across multiple channels, and companies will make sure that they are coming back to you. So those are some of the tips which I had around AI, around dealing with AI systems. And yeah, I think I just have very last slide which has some trends which I see. I just wanted to end on that note, but if there are any questions, then we can take it up.
We're about to get into the question and answer session, so why don't you go ahead and conclude the slides here, and we'll go back to that.
Okay, so nothing out of the world. It's something that we all know, but I just wanted to finish it up with those points. So basically, we talked about it. What we are going to see in 2021 and beyond will be that there will be more automation, right? So recruitment process, for example, getting automated is one part of automation. Content, catalog, data labeling, anything which can be automated will be automated, right? So that's something which is going to happen. And if that's a trend, then what is the plan of action? You have to increase the job value, right? You can't be doing something which can be done by machines. And if it can be done by machines, they will do it tirelessly day in and day out, and you can't beat them, right? So if that's a trend, then and if you are now in a job which can be automated, then you should really upskill yourself. You should try to figure out what is the human value in that job. And every job has some human value, but a lot of people don't get to that point, right? So even recruitment, for example, a lot of people just keep on calling people. That's an automatable job. But a lot of people, a job of a recruiter is not just to call people, it's to understand people. And that can't be automated. So you can always, in your own field, it's not like always everybody has to go to data science kind of a thing. In your field, there will be a human part and there will be an automatable part. Try to focus on the non-automatable part or the human part. And if that is there, try to build expertise around it. And then of course you can get out of that thing in long run and try to upskill and go to different job functions. That's one thing. And along with it will come reduced job safety. As I said earlier, for India or for developed country kind of a system or context, job safety has been so ingrained in our cultural thing that we never knew or we never thought that jobs can be lost so easily. And now I think all with COVID, I think a lot of people for the first time either lost their job or they saw someone very close losing their job. So now it's much more a reality than it was before, and I think we have to accept that that in a kind of a modern market, these things will happen, and the response should be to take risks as early as possible whenever you can. Because as I said earlier, if you get into a role which you're not excited about, but you're just doing that because it's a safe job, any safety thing, whenever your job looks to be safe, is actually a kind of a risky maneuver because it's something that is which is not exposing you to the true market dynamics. And I think you should try to take risk as early. A lot of people just work for 5 years, 6 years in industry, and they think, oh, I have too much investment into one domain, I can't get out. No, it's not like that. You have 40, 50 years of career ahead of you. In long run, it doesn't really make any difference what you were doing in the first 5 years of your life. As early as you can, take the risk and do something which can get you to understand your true competencies and build your skills in that area, and that will be great for you. Globalization of talent is something which is happening after COVID, and this is a great opportunity for people to find jobs anywhere, right? So the plan of action is, if you are already skilled, then you can take short-term benefit. You can now you are employable and available to a lot of companies outside India, outside your area, wherever you are, and they can they can hire you reasonably and practically for the first time in entire history of mankind. That's great. Without leaving India, you can get employed in a company in Europe, in company in a company in Canada, and that's great for you. But that's a short-term benefit. Also understand that why you're taking that benefit in long run, that benefit will be given to somebody else, because with the globalization, whatever is happening to you, that same situation will come to you when there will be somebody in Africa, somebody in Philippines who might be actually less costly for companies to hire. So in the long term, you have to prepare for it. As I said again, you have to find your true passion, build your competencies, and if you are a top person in your chosen field of work, then there is actually no competition. You will always win that competition. So that is what I had planned. Now I don't know if we are. I think we kind of overshot our time, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Very good. We are going to go into a question and answer period, and we can go ahead and do that. I'm going to ask a few questions that came from the audience. There are so many, of course, that we cannot possibly answer all of them, but we will give it a go. So we have a question from Samir who asks, he's working as an SAP consultant. He's planning to do a transition into the field of AI. Can you guide him on how to approach his resume and the interviewers?
So first of all, AI is a very broad term. You need to really find which stream or which branch of AI you want to work under or work in. Find that. Within that, do some projects, do some work to build your competency around it. And I'm assuming that now from the recruiter standpoint, right? So if I were to don the hat of a recruiter and you apply, I'm going to look at my job, which will have typical requirement of 3-year experience in a specific branch of AI. And I'll look at your resume that you have worked in SAP. And 99% times I will just say that this person is not a fit, right? Because the person is mostly talking about SAP, or it's not my job role. So I would normally not shortlist. So I would say your job should be to, as I said earlier, your job should be to figure out the other side. And in this case, your chances are not looking bright. What you should do here is make a resume which is not really very heavy on SAP. It is actually making mention of SAP, but it's mostly about your newfound interest in AI, or your projects in AI, and your anything around that company that you're applying to, anything specific that you can add to the context. And instead of writing and applying on a job portal or to a website, try to hit the people who are on the hiring team. That would be my best shot in your situation, because as I said earlier, you are trying to enter a space where there is a huge competition. People are already available who are hungry to get into it. So you need to play the game a bit differently. Applying on a proper on normal job site on a career or on a career page, expecting to be picked up by a recruiter, I think that is not going to happen. Very unlikely to happen.
Dipali asks, when you mentioned working across many domains, what did you mean by that?
Yeah, so I think in most of the professionals' life, you will find yourself to have a significant exposure to a specific thing, which could be a job function. It could be a specific kind of kind of work, like in terms of technology, or it could be specific to domains. Let's say a marketer working in healthcare. You start getting too much into healthcare, and you become a healthcare kind of domain expert, and which is great. But before you go too deep, like first 3 years, it's great because you're picking up a lot of knowledge on healthcare, which is great. But after from 3 to 5 or 5 to 8, it is not really adding a lot of linear value to you. It is just increasing your risk in that domain a bit more, and you are not employable or attractive to anybody else outside of healthcare. So if you shift after 2 years of building competency in that specific domain, you move out and get into, let's say, fintech, and also apply the same rules of marketing in the fintech domain, and you pick up more fintech understanding. Now you're getting more broader in your approach. So I think there will be time when you will be exposed to a specific thing in your career, and there will be premium attached to it inside the company. You'll be promoted because of that domain knowledge, and there'll be more competitors who will also try to hire you because you have so much of already a lot of context in that. But that is a sort of a local maxima problem, that somebody is willing to pay you more in short term. You should try to get out, and if you diversify and broaden your base, you will be actually employable and attracted to a bigger set of companies. So again, as a demand supply kind of a constraint, if you look at it, your objective as a professional is to increase your demand. And if the more people who are fighting for you, the better your prospects are of growth, and more options you will have to choose from, right? So it's always in short term versus long term kind of a question. Always try to think long term. Don't think about your next salary hike. Don't think about your next job. Think about your next 40 years of your job, right? So try to take that risk and try to diversify.
Very good. We have several questions that relate to something you said about number of years of experience versus depth of experience. Can you give an example of how somebody might emphasize in their resume the depth of experience without going into too much detail about years?
So the funny thing is the depth of experience shows. Uh, it shows in your thinking process. It shows in your writing. The more depth you have, uh, if I give you, let's say, same topic, and if I give the same topic to people or three people, one is totally a newbie, one is intermediate, and one is master, you will find on the same topic they will write things differently, right? Same project, they will write in three different ways. And the first person will write mostly about the keywords that there was a system that we built and XYZ. Intermediate will add some more skill context about that. The third person who is a master will not use the same language. The person will actually talk about a much higher level picture of the entire system or entire solution or whatever they built. And that is something which is not, you can't fake it. It's something which comes with more experience and with more depth. You actually have more clarity about the topic, and that in your resume it shows, or in any writing, in any blog or whatever it shows. So I think your depth, if you have the depth, you should be able to know it will show if you, because your level of understanding of that topic will increase. So I think if you look at it, if you just look up people's resume, so look at the top, let's say 10, 15 Silicon Valley, anybody you idolize or you look up to in your domain, anybody who is an expert, look at their LinkedIn profile, look at their resume. You will find that they're not talking about things, they're talking about ideas, right? And that is the difference between someone who is an expert and deep and someone who just knows the basics and intermediate level of stuff.
Richard asks, he says he's in his first year of digital marketing. He's got an executive position and he's a fairly recent graduate, but he's not a coder. And he, he thinks that coding is something that is a must-have these days. Is he right? And when should he be looking to start learning that if that's something important?
Yeah, so I think it is always beneficial, right? Coding, you can, I find a lot of people who are in marketing or other domains who don't know about coding, and they think it's too complex or something, but, and they have less opportunities available to them because they kind of lock themselves out. If you look at coding, it's just one more level of, one more branch or one more area where you can pick up. If I were to tell you something about it, like if I say there's a new game, right, which is played in this way, you will not have any problems in understanding a new game. But when I talk about a new domain like coding or AI or something like that, you will have a lot of blockage or a lot of friction or hesitation in adopting it. It's like same thing with languages. Right? If I ask you to learn German, you will find it to be a very daunting task. But a lot of people are polylingual; they can very easily pick up languages. But and when you start giving it a shot, you actually realize that you can do it. It's just that most of the times we don't learn languages not because of our lack of ability to learn it. It's just that we don't want to learn it, and we have a lot of we think why it is required, and we block ourselves out. So I think in case of coding also, it's a great skill. Because not because it's a fancy thing, it's because you can make and build something that you want to build. And in today's and in future, years that are going to come, building something is going to be a great asset and a great skill that you can have. So I would say remove your block, any mental blocks you have around coding. Don't think it's a life changing skill or something like that. Think of it as one more skill that helps you, and it's a builder skill, it's a maker skill like design, uh, language, math, right? And similar to that, coding also the builder skill. So the more building skills you have, the more valuable you will be, and the more liberty and more opportunities we will have in your life. So think of that perspective, and you can learn this. There now, the great thing about internet these days is that there's a lot of great material available, which you don't really have to code a lot of things, and it's very easy to understand. You don't need a lot of maths and all of those background. There's not C++ we're talking about. A lot of people you started with C++ and they could not get far. Today's languages are much simpler. And then a lot of frameworks that allow you to code without really writing a lot of code. So I think it's easy for you to pick up. Don't think too much about it. Whoever asked this question, just go ahead and jump into it. Remove any mental blocks. I'm sure you will be able to pick it up, and you will pick up one more skill which you can use. If not used, you can work with people who use that skill to become more productive in the team setting. So I would say go ahead and do it. Don't have any mental blocks around it.
Okay. Joe asks if there's value in video resumes.
Experimental value. Video resumes are for humans to consume as of now. So we have not seen any major platform using video resumes, or companies using any major platforms that can do video resumes, or parse of video resumes and get information out of it. So experimentally, yes, but nothing mainstream is there as of now. So I would say it is not a replacement of a traditional resume, because that's what most companies are still going to be asking for. Video resume is great once you are past the resume, the main screening stage, and you can attach it along with your main resume, so that companies who are interested can get a more wider perspective into your personality. And actually, we have hired someone with a video resume also, but it was a supplementary information like a portfolio, something that designers have. Similar to that, you can also include a video resume to make sure that companies don't have to make a call or set up a video call to understand you. If you have very powerful, if you have something which is really very powerful to say to them, you can record it, attach in your resume, and it will work out.
Ayusha asks, nowadays it seems people are hiring based on aptitude for business rather than skill. Is that an accurate perception, or is there really a favor of one or the other?
They're hiring because of what?
He says that people are hiring because of the candidate's aptitude for the business rather than the candidate's skill.
I don't know. I don't really understand the question very well, but I think both of them are important. So it's not like one versus the other. Skills are definitely important, but you are right, in long term, skills are replaceable. They are substitutable by something else. So your business understanding of the overall business context and problem solving becomes more important. So both of them are important. It's not something which is replacement of something else.
And I think the last question, it covers questions from a number of people, and it's basically along the lines of, if you have done independent projects in the new field, or if you've done projects as part of a program, do those count as your portfolio, and are they given weight by employers?
Say it again. What exactly on your portfolio, on your resume?
So one person's asking about doing independent data science projects on his own, that he's posted on GitHub. Does that constitute a work sample?
No, so basically it is not a replace. So it will have some weightage, but here is again the same thing, right? Demand supply, right? So many people do the same thing. They have, if you look at any data science resume, most of them have done a Twitter sentiment analysis project, because of such a basic thing that all people do, right? So anything that you are doing run of the mill is not going to give you the edge. It will not be treated like an experience for sure. Any project you do is not an experience in itself, but any project you do is better than not having any project, right? So do that, but also try to find unique products, like not just a project that you did because there was something it was mentioned in a workbook or something. Try to come up with, let's say, productize that idea or something like that, make a website or demonstrate it, something unique. I saw a lot of people on LinkedIn, for example, in the very early stages of data science, they were making these videos about object detection, right? So cars are going and a street camera is looking at a car and trying to identify which is this vehicle is a car or this vehicle is a two-wheeler. and all of that, right? So that's pretty cool thing that they built and they put it out there, right? So that is a, if you can do these kind of solutions, not just showcase projects, if you can do a solution and which is unique and which can be very easily seen by people and it can be demonstrated, do that. And again, as I said, whenever you are a fresher trying to get into a field where there's high competition, as I said, your methods need to change. Your methods can't be the same old methods that work for a experienced professional, which is applying and then waiting. You have to create your chances. And as I said, most of the recruiters do the shortlisting. Your resume in this case also will not get shortlisted most likely, because they would be, the recruiters would have been asked by the companies to look for a specific years of experience on that domain, and you would not have that. So what you need to do is hit the decision makers, do these cool projects, uh, understand the company that is hiring, pick up 15 companies that really are doing good work, and you think they, their founders are pretty much active or whatever on Twitter or whatever, wherever they are, and you can get their email address. Do these projects, hit them up with a customized subject line, customized pitch that where you think you can bring a lot of value. Attach all these three projects where they can actually see the evidence of your work or what else you can do apart from the normal run of the mill kind of projects that are there on Kaggle and stuff like that. And that is where you have a shot at getting the interview with these people who are decision makers. And that is the way for anybody who is not very, who is trying to buck the trend to get into a company that they want to get into. But very few people do it. Some people do it, but some people do it, but they just do the cold email. They don't. I think in the cold email, you have to get the attention. Or at any time, so you have to understand who you're talking to. People who can deviate from the requirement are the people who are hiring managers and founders and directors. HR people, recruiters, they can't deviate from the trend or from the specification because that's what they have been told. So you have to hit the right person, and hitting the right person means you have to hit them by email or LinkedIn or whatever it is. And second is you hit me and you said, okay, Nikunj, I want to work in your company. It's great and all that, but there's no evidence of your work. So that's the second requirement. Once you have got my attention, you have to make sure that I'm able to understand your skills and find you to be a very competent person. And that's why your projects that you're talking about, those can be, if I can just click on a link and see what kind of work you have done and maybe read up something which you have written on a blog, that will give me a great confidence that this person is not just a person who's reaching out to me, he's creative, he also has the skill set. And then you just say that, okay, can we have a 5-10 minute call? And that will, most of the times out of 10, you will get 3 or 4 interview calls. So I think that is, in general, anybody who is a fresher should try to, or could try to use this recipe. So what you were saying something.
I was just going to say that I did have one last question, which is, I'll phrase it this way. How does somebody who's got experience, who's attended interviews and not gotten offers, how do they troubleshoot their career search process?
So they went through the interviews.
Yeah, we've got this particular questioner says that they lead a team of AI developers. They have hands-on experience. They've had a few job interviews, and they have not gotten the offers they wanted from other companies. So what kind of troubleshooting could this person do?
So I think the best way to do it is in the interview itself or soon after the interview. Some people they offer the feedback in the interview itself. Like I offer feedback if something does not go right and if I'm not convinced, and I tend to tell people what my thought process is. Right? That's, if you find something that's great. Sometimes, and most of the times, you will not. So then you have to ask or gauge from the experience from the after the interview that what exactly is something you can share. Can you share some feedback, whatever it is? It might be you had a great interview or you did not have a great interview, whatever it was. If you could just ask for feedback at the end of the interview, that would also help you understand the thought process at that moment itself. If you leave that opportunity and don't ask there, and then they say, okay, I'll get back to you or something like that, and then you write to them with a follow-up message and then you ask for feedback, I have found that to be psychologically getting more difficult for the person to give feedback, because the person said they would get back, they did not get back. You followed up, they ignored or they did not reply. or they were in the middle of something, they could not remember all the details and all of that. So I would say try to keep it as close to the point of interview as possible. And after, as soon as the interview is over, just ask them explicitly that, can I ask you a question if you don't mind? It would be great if you can give me feedback on what your thought process is, what what I did, what where I could improve, or what do you think is the fitment going to be looking like, or whatever it is. And then I think if you solicit some feedback there, you will get some more data points. So I think that would be my only thought process at this point. I'll think more about it. I don't know what else you could do, because I understand that if you do it later, I don't see that to be working out most of the times, because people will have so many follow-ups, emails, and all of that, and they would not have time to really give you a very structured feedback at that time.
That makes sense. So with that, our questions and answers are done. I will want to say thank you to Nikunj. Give people a way to get in touch with you through LinkedIn. And this has been a wonderful session. I really appreciate your candidness and your in-depth insights. So,
okay, I'm glad.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm glad. Thanks for inviting me. And this is my favorite topic, guys. So you can ask me more questions after on connecting on LinkedIn, and we could do something like this again. As I said, in CutShort, basically it's a recruitment platform, but the whole idea of CutShort is to uh, bridge the gap between the people who are passionate, who want to do something in their career, connect with the company that are looking for you, and solve those problems one by one. So there's a great investment the company has, and I personally have in this entire space of making professionals more successful. So it's my favorite topic. So I would love to help more in any time, uh, personally or in any of these sessions again in the future.
Thank you again. Want to mention that Simplilearn has launched a program called Skill Up, which gives people free access to many of our basic courses across a whole variety of digital and digital related technologies. I've put the link in the chat and you'll be able to follow it from there. And I do encourage people to check that out. As I said, it's free, no obligation, and gives you access to our basic and introductory courses. So we will have another in our series of webinars next Tuesday, same time, 9 p.m. India, digital transformation in the post-COVID world, with Simi Damija of Tech Mahindra. She's the Chief Transformation Officer, and so she's an expert on how digital transformation is changing careers for tech professionals. Hope you all join us then, and you can connect with us on our various social channels, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. So please do, and we look forward to having you at future webinars, and we hope that we will be able to have Nikunj back in one of those. So thanks again to everybody. And this is the end of our webinar. If you log off of WebEx at this time, please answer the survey. It will appear in your web browser, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Yeah, and give us feedback, and on LinkedIn also you can give me feedback, or if you have any follow-up questions, or if you have any improvement areas for me, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you. Bye. Have a good night.